Hey writers, thanks for joining me for the replay of this Writerly Wednesday chat. You can get me live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hey, I see we got 3 people already. Hey Audra, how goes it? Hello, Cheryl's here, Dawn's here, oh wow. Man, and for some reason I was worried that people wouldn't show up quick tonight. I'm a silly goose. Cool. Hello. Oh, I don't recognize that handle. I'm gonna butcher that if I try to pronounce it. If you're new, feel free to introduce yourself. I am always very excited to meet new people. Yes, thank you for sharing, everybody. If you wouldn't mind swiping to the left and sharing with your Twitter and Periscope followers, it would be much appreciated. Cool. Well, thank you guys for joining so quickly. I am Megan. I'm a developmental editor and writing coach, and I help writers to refine their words, strengthen their skills, and tell the best possible version of their stories. And the glare from my computer on my glasses is driving me insane. Carvole. Is it vole or vol? I will try to pronounce that correctly because people mispronounce my last name all the time and it's really annoying. So I try to get names correct when I can. I'm glad that you came when you were invited. That's fantastic. Okay, so tonight we're talking about chasing inspiration and finding consistency in our creativity. I know a lot of people have that problem where you're like, I'm going to write tonight and it's going to be great. And then you sit down at your computer or you pick up your pen and nothing happens. Joseph. Cool. Nice to meet you. Oh no. GL, not C. Okay. I got it. Can I call you Joseph? It's my brother's middle name, and that'll be much easier for my brain to remember. So yeah, I'm so sorry that you're blocked tonight. That's the worst feeling in the whole world. But hopefully something of what I say will maybe help jog some ideas or in the future make this a little easier. So I have a theory that when we do things that are that when we do things that engage our creative side, whether or not that's writing, it helps us to stay in a creative place more often, which in this theory of mine makes it easier. Hi, Kat. So yeah, if we engage in things that spark our creativity, even if they aren't directly writing related, I have a theory that makes it easier to then stay creative and be creative on command. And this is a little bit based on having read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, which again, I highly recommend to any creative soul out there. It's amazing. She's my homegirl. So yeah, she talks about thinking of inspiration more as like a friend or an entity that you are trying to woo. Almost, she actually goes as far as to say think of it as a lover, but that gets a little awkward. Oh no, 3 days! That's the worst. Creative constipation. It's awful. I'm so sorry. So yeah, so instead of thinking of your creativity as this thing that you're battling or you're, beating your head against the wall trying to engage with it or find it or trap it or hunt it down or whatever, think of it more as a friend you're trying to hang out with. And, sometimes our friends are busy and that really sucks for us, but we can find either other friends to hang out with or we can find, another time to hang out with said friend. So this is the basis of my theory. And so I want to put it out there that maybe if you're sitting down to write and you're finding that you're completely blocked, use that time that you've set aside to already. So you're not, ignoring any other responsibilities. pretty much goes away when life throws you big issues to deal with. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I have so much on my plate right now, planning a wedding and running my business. And so, yeah, I have not had much time to think about being fun and creative. But that doesn't, I haven't had time to sit down and work on the thing that I've been working on for a while. But I still feel like, thank you, Audra. But I still feel like I've been creative and I've been coming up with new ideas and new things that sound exciting, even if I'm not working on them right away. And so I think that that's because I'm doing things that are making me engage with that part of my brain, but I'm not necessarily sitting down and acting on it right away. But if my theory is correct, when I do sit down to act on it, like it'll take me a couple seconds to get out of, shake off the rust and whatnot. But my theory is that it will make it easier ultimately to sit down and be creative when I'm ready. But meanwhile, I'm not adding, guilt and self-loathing to my plate on top of all the things I have to do and, the fact that I'm not writing. It's so important to be nice to yourself and to cut yourself some slack. And yes, there is a difference between cutting yourself some slack and blowing things off. And it's a fine line, especially if you're me. But it is so, so important to be gentle with yourself, especially where your creativity is concerned, because I have found if I beat my head against the wall too long, writing becomes a thing I don't even want to do anymore because it's just not fun. It's all pain, and it's not supposed to be painful all the time. I'm doing both. Is that a special category? Yeah. You are a special category, Audra. You get your own category. So what I'm doing, though, is I am reading some books and I'm talking about them. My mom and I started a podcast a while ago, episodes for which have not been coming out so regularly because, see list of things I've been doing, but, that's a whole other thing. But we talk about the books after we read them is the point. And so that's engaging with the writerly part of my brain, the creative storytelling part of my brain. And listening to podcasts is one of my favorite things. I listen to them while I run and I listen to them while I'm walking my dog. And I'm not listening to like writing podcasts. Although I could see that being helpful if there's a specific thing that you're stuck on. There are so many out there that I'm positive you could find an episode of some writing podcast that would be giving advice on the thing that you're stuck on. Alternatively, if there is a specific thing that you're stuck on, you could let me know on Twitter or Instagram, and I will do my best to get you some advice, possibly do a full-on scope about it. But I listen to podcasts that are more story-oriented, so sometimes news, sometimes people. I try. So my favorite one actually, and a more recent example of, me having one of those like, ooh, moments while I was listening to a podcast was I was listening to Dear Sugar, which is based on the advice column that Cheryl Strayed was doing before she became, Cheryl Strayed. And it's actually her and the guy who started the advice column, Steve Allman, and they are doing a podcast now where people write in with their problems, they read the letter, and then they give advice. And these are two very intelligent people. But I like the letters because sometimes I'm like, ooh, I want to write that story. So the one that happened to me this week was this guy wrote in about how his wife has this friend who's actually more like an ex-boyfriend that she dated for a little while they were on a break from their own relationship. And she wanted him to come visit. And there was this so it was like this whole thing, and I was like, oh my god, that's a short story and I want to write the crap out of it. So I wrote it down in my Evernote, which is where I keep my running list of little ideas that I get, and which is key to this entire theory. Actually, let me rewind and pause for a moment. When you're engaging in the thing that is activating your creativity, it's important to have something near you or on you with which you can record whatever ideas you have when you have them, unless you have a way better memory than I do. I am queen of, oh no, I'll definitely remember that, after this walk when I get back to the house, and I'll write it down then. And then I get back to the house and I'm like, nope, I have no idea what I'm thinking about. Exactly. Yes, the notes section on my phone, I love to just, hey Siri, write this down for me real quick. That's like one of my favorite functions, especially while I'm driving. Evernote is great because, well, if you have a Mac, then this is samesies. You can access your notes on your computer too. But if you have Evernote, then you can access it on your phone and your computer and wherever else you download the app. So that's kind of cool. I like having multiple places to access it. I activate. Is it by saying her name? Is she like Bloody Mary? That's hilarious. Oh, it's because I said, hey, huh? That's funny. I didn't activate my own Siri. What a lazy bee. That's funny. Um, so yeah, keeping something handy to write down the ideas that you get when you're doing the things that activate your creativity is key. And I'm curious to know because for me, it's, anytime I'm engaging with any story type thing, so like podcasts or books or even movies and television get my brain going that way because I'm constantly asking myself, but what if this was different? Or what if these people were. See, I was going to ask if anyone out there was inspired by other things. Music is so good. I love a good song. But for me, again, it's the lyrics of the song that I'm listening to that will get me. So I don't know if my brain is just like too married to words or what, which is hilarious because I'm marrying a musician. Um, yes, it's the lyrics for you too. That's awesome. But I know I have friends who are big into, sometimes it's the words, sometimes the rest. That's awesome. I have friends who are big into visual arts and they like to go to galleries. And I have a friend who actually, her fiance was telling me the story about that they were walking through a park and she just sat down and wrote a poem real quick and then they kept walking, which I thought was so cool. Um, Music, movies, podcasts, YouTube, yes, all the same for me. The emotion behind the music, that's so fascinating to me, Audra. I want to pick your brain about that one of these days because I get that too. Like music will get me. The emotion of the music definitely gets me, but it's usually the words. Yeah, yeah, I agree. It depends on what I'm writing. Um, you know, and my current work that I'm progressing on very, very slowly is like horror. And I haven't actually watched a horror movie in a while, and I wonder if that's part of my problem. Emotion is good for intense scenes. I've written a whole scene with the same song on loop. Yes, I have friends who have done that too. I have a friend who creates playlists specifically for whatever he's working on. And Martina, I'm talking about your husband. Um, he creates playlists in his Spotify of songs that fit the vibe of the thing that he's working on. And then I think that's cool because then even if you're not sitting down to write that thing, um, yeah, even if you're not sitting down to write that thing, if you have the playlist handy, you can get into that headspace just by listening to the playlist. And so I think that it's super important for writers and creative people because I don't really know a creative person who's not creative in more than one place, I guess. I feel like inspired people are inspired by a lot of things. And so it's not like you're bound to one avenue to find inspiration. And so it's so important to, be willing to look outside of the thing that you're doing to gain ideas and to, pad your creativity tank, if you will, so that you have just a store of creative energy that you can draw on. Your characters have their own playlist. That's awesome. I love that idea. But yeah, if you have like sort of a backlog of creative energy that you've stored while you're not writing, then my theory is that it will make it easier to sit down and do the writing. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of talking and it's hot in the office, which means my mouth is getting real dry. But I do have some ideas for just in case my theory fails a little bit, or for helping you shake the rust off if it's been a little while since you've actually sat down to do the writing. Some ideas for getting quick inspiration in the moment. I love random word generators or random first line generators, and I will send a link to my newsletter to my favorite first line generator. I send out newsletters on Monday with links to anything I mention, the replay to this Periscope, and all sorts of other fun content. The links to sign up for that are found all over my social media, including in the link for this profile right here. Or the description, rather, for this profile right here. But random line generators are so cool. They'll give you like a sentence. If you need a whole sentence, they'll give you a whole sentence. If you need a word, you get a word. And there is the potential that you sit down and just generate random lines all night. So I highly recommend setting a timer for like, I don't know, a minute, maybe 2, maybe 5, if you're feeling particularly cranky. But set a limit to the amount of time you're allowed to spend generating these random lines, and then when the timer goes off, whatever's on your screen you have to go with, and you have to just write. Because at a certain point when you're blocked, there comes a time when you just have to push past it, and it doesn't always feel great, but you'll get there. So yeah, I suggest random word generators, random sentence generators. I have a board on my Pinterest profile that is exclusively for inspiring images and prompts. I searched writing prompts on Pinterest and like a gazillion things came up. There are like full on like text images, basically. It's like text graphics that have like, start with this piece of dialogue, go. And it's awesome. So if I'm ever stuck, I can go there and I have this whole board full of resources to get me going again. I highly recommend that. And then I had the idea the other day to use Twitter as like a random first line generator, because people are tweeting random crap all the time. And so if you just go and scroll through your feed and you see something that catches your eye, write it down and then keep writing and see what happens. Alternatively, I like to go sit in coffee shops and eavesdrop on strangers like a creeper and use whatever I heard last as the first line of what I'm writing. I have a problem of not wanting to practice or do writing prompts because it's not something to do with my story or my characters. But sometimes that helps, though. Sometimes it helps to get out of the thing that you're doing. Yeah, and that's wonderful. I'm happy for you that you're super in love with your story, but sometimes that could become part of the problem if we get too close. Or you could write a prompt or work off of a prompt thinking, like channeling your characters somehow. Like it's maybe not necessarily going to be a part of your main work, but it could be a fun little exercise to, okay, what if I put my characters in this situation? What would they do? Just to get your brain thinking about some other stuff for a little while, because that helps me. If I switch, anytime I switch between tasks or topics, I find that I get a little boost of energy. And so in my writing, I try to do that whenever I can. And you got to watch out for that. You're welcome. You got to watch out for that new and shiny syndrome if you're me, because I tend to, ooh, no, I want to do that now. And then nothing ever gets finished. But if you are working on a longer work and you're finding yourself getting a little burnt out, I highly recommend just putting your characters in a completely new situation and seeing what happens. And it could be fun also. So yeah, and then the key to all of this is consistency. So whatever you're doing that is engaging your creativity outside of writing, do it consistently. So like I said, when I walk my dog, I'm listening to podcasts. I have to walk my dog every day, so I'm listening to a podcast every day. I'm consuming some kind of thing that engages my creative brain every day. And it's like 10, 20 minutes, however fast he decides he wants to walk that day. And so it's not, I get stuck between opening Scrivener and putting my hands on the keys. Yeah, I feel that that happens too for me. Right, I was just talking to my fiance actually about how I am completely blocked at the moment on my current work one because I am super busy. It is like going to the gym. Let's, yes. Yeah. Um um yeah, because I'm super busy and then also because there are changes I already want to make, and I haven't even finished the first draft yet. And I'm fighting so hard to not go back and do those before I finish the first draft. And so it's just causing like complete and utter chaos up here. So I feel you. Like I sit down, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna keep writing. And then I sit down, and all I can think about is like, yeah, never go to the gym though. Yeah, that's why I work out at home. And that's also why I like running so much because I don't have to go to anywhere to do it. I just go do it, which is fantastic. Um, yes, do it. Just get on the treadmill. You could also, if you could open Scrivener, set a timer for like 5 minutes, give yourself 5 minutes to do something else on the computer, and then when the timer goes off, switch to your writing. And maybe that would be like a good transition. Maybe. Does that sound like a thing that would help? Or would you end up just being on Facebook for hours? Because that could happen to me too. Maybe it's not Facebook. Maybe it's something a little less trapping. But I kind of like the idea of like getting yourself in the chair is step one, and then giving yourself a couple minutes to just have accomplished step one. Good job. Um, yeah, like, yeah. Facebook is like a black hole. Except that, I don't know, I'm not super into it anymore at the moment. For me, it's BuzzFeed. I get trapped on BuzzFeed for like an hour. It's bad. Um, but yeah, so give yourself some transition time between the sitting down and the actually starting, and maybe that'll help you. Um, yeah, Facebook's pretty awful for, the videos are hilarious, but it's election season, and whenever it's a highly political time, I sometimes do allow myself to just deal with other issues. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think your name is Cheryl, right? I think I remember that. Um, that's kind of exactly what I'm talking about with this whole scope. Is like cut yourself some slack if you're not actually yes. Cut yourself some slack if you're not actually doing the writing, because beating your head against a wall is only sustainable for so long. So if you're really having trouble with that part, it is okay to give yourself a break, but definitely engage with something that will get your brain thinking in that same mindset, whether it's the playlist that you created that is the same vibe as your work, or some other storytelling thing. Plotting is a good thing to do. Maybe outlining, if that's your jam, you can do some outlining. um, Maybe some research if your thing is real. Writing sprint challenge as soon as we're done. Who's in? Sounds good. Go forth and conquer. I will be I will be supporting you in spirit because I have to go eat dinner. You know, food is another important thing or whatever. Um, so yeah. No, not a fever. So many people are getting sick right now. What's happening? Like all the people I know and care about. All right, folks. Well, that is the end of my spiel, and sounds like y'all I got some writing to go do. That'll be exciting. I am yay, I'm excited. Thank you. Cool. So yeah, about these weekend scopes that I'm planning on doing, um I'm switching them to Sunday because it turns out my Saturdays are completely insane for the foreseeable future, including the fact that I just took a job at the library here in my town, which will be super fun, part-time, just for funsies. Um, so yeah, I am going to be scoping on Sundays. Yeah, I got it. Thank you, Janella. um, So yeah, I'm going to be scoping on Sundays and ask me anything. So if you have any questions about writing or editing or whatever, you can join me and ask me those. I said 10 a.m. on Saturdays, so I'll go ahead and do 10 a.m. on Sundays. It does come from being curious about the unknown. Yeah, that is my number one source. I posted a quote on my Instagram Monday. Yes, 1 p.m. Eastern. That's 1. Oh, no. Yes, 1 p.m. Eastern. Sorry, I had to do math. That happens very slowly. So yeah, there's a quote on my Instagram about the 2 most important words to a writer are what if, and that's so, yes, jinx, Cheryl. Pinch poke, you owe me a Coke. So yeah, every time I'm listening to a thing, I find that it is usually when I'm thinking, what if this is different, or what if I was in charge of these people, that gets my mind thinking story-wise. And so yeah, so cool. You can find me and links to sign up for my newsletter at Why Not Blog on Twitter and Instagram. That is my website right there. And that is my email if you want to email me directly. Any questions for the Sunday AMA session or just in general. You can also feel free to direct message me on Twitter and Instagram. Same deal. Any questions, comments, concerns, I will respond promptly. Thank you all for joining me this evening. I hope that I was enlightening and encouraging. I love spending time with you all. You're fantastic. And I hope you have fun with your writing sprints. Bye. No. I love when I'm trying to get out of here and my phone is just like, no, I'm going to fight you.